as I mentioned, we're using the moon deck today. Sorry, it's so dark and dreary where I am, so my light looks extra powerful, and I actually have it on the lowest setting. The moon deck, and we have 2 cards. So I'm just gonna do this like kind of quick, just to keep things moving. So this is the first card. If you would like to intuitively read into which card you think will resonate with you, then we'll do a very quick kind of rapid fire of that now. So this is the first card. And then the second card for the second reading. If you're not familiar with my classes, I don't look at the cards ahead of time, so I keep them face down, and that's also why I'm blocking it so that I can't see what is on the front side of the card. So I'll just show them a couple more times. If you want to let me know in the chat if you are energetically connecting with one or both of the cards, you can just throw 1 in the chat, a 2 in the chat, both in the chat. And when you're looking for is any sort of sensation, gut feeling, knowing, so leveraging those different psychic clairs. So this is the first card. And the second card. Now I'll just show them one more time and then we'll move on. First card. And here's the second card one more time. Keep coming back to 1, so 1 it is. And Kimmy, it's also okay if you end up connecting to both of them. That tends to happen with some people. I'm getting something about like refrigerating, like it's taking me back to like ye olden times. I don't even know when this was, but before we actually had refrigerators and everything was stored just with like salt. If anyone is familiar with history here and knows what this time period is, please do share in the chat. But it seems like we're going back in time to an era before we had present day technology, and specifically for preserving, conserving, extending the shelf life. So this doesn't necessarily have to pertain to food. It really doesn't feel like it is pertaining to food. It's more about I just keep getting it's preservation, conservation, mostly on the preservation side, but we're trying to preserve something, and yet the technology that we're being presented with here is very, very out of date and probably won't keep well. So there's a reason that we switched from these big salt blocks to the refrigeration technology that we have now. I'm getting something about like instructions. Like this is a week of receiving new instruction manuals, new ways of doing things, new ways to kind of get up to date, to not use like it's coming in like it's archaic methods. I was looking to see, are we doing anything with the instructions over the course of the next 6 to 7 days? Do we read through all of them? Like, how long is this manual? Do we absorb it? Are we able to apply it? And it honestly feels like it is a very slow process. Like it's like so many pages of dense text. It's really a lot for us to get through. So we're not necessarily jumping to action this week. So we'll see when I get to the second card if these 2 readings are slotting together or if this is kind of for everybody that some version of this may present. But it feels like we're just kind of sitting in it feels like like when you do an update, like a system update on your computer or on your phone. It's just like this slow downloading process, and we're just like watching that progress bar slowly fill up and get closer and closer to 100. And so when that is happening, you can't do anything. Like you can't use your phone while it's doing the system update. So it feels like we're in a bit of a pause waiting for that update process to finish. I wrote my own guidebook last night, taken from notes on a course on healing from trauma. And it's basically what I need to live a healthy life. Oh, no kidding. It's my reset week of the 3-month lunar cycle. I live cyclically, so this makes sense. Basically, like my daily how to live manual. Yeah. Okay. Great. So people are connecting with this, which is awesome. So I'm going to flip over this first card. Fascinating. Fascinating. So one also might say the thing that we are writing, this manual, another term for that is like a manifesto. The card is the manifest card. So we are setting up, we are gearing up for whatever those next steps are. And we're in this kind of waiting period, preparing period, looking to call in whatever the thing is that's next. So the mantra on this card is, with focus and intention, I can shape energy in any direction. So you can wield the power of your chosen direction here. So whatever it is that you're either writing or leveraging or referencing, your information source, the thing that you are using for your personal system update, you are setting an intention for making that come to fruition, to be in your life around you. So when you are learning, when you are processing, you're doing an upload. Another way to think about this as well, oftentimes when we're talking about having an energetic up level, you could view that as a download. So a download in the spiritual sense could be you're having an intuitive download. That's another way of saying like a psychic hit, like you're receiving messages, you're receiving insights. So it could present psychically for you, or it could be like some of the examples in the chat. You are literally reading something, you're processing a lot of information, you're not totally sure what to make of it yet. And so we're in this incubation, preserving period. We're holding the information. We're getting ready to rid ourselves of the outdated processing systems so we can move forward. And what we're moving forward and moving towards is an intention that we are setting, because we are going to move into a new system. We're setting the goal, the aspiration, the energetic manifestation. I want to clear that old process and system that's not working, and I want to do this instead. So I'm taking the time to learn about it. And the act of doing that, I think someone said in the chat, it's like where energy goes, energy flows. It's the same exact idea here. So even though you feel like you're not doing anything because you're just sitting, you're learning, you're studying, you're writing, you're thinking, you're receiving psychic downloads, whatever form it's taking for you, it will translate into change, into specific action, into getting those instructions for the next steps. I keep getting a visual here of like crawling out of something. In some ways, maybe it's like a birthing thing. So it could be a literal birth. It could be just this idea of like a rebirth, because I'm seeing as if like somebody is like peeking their head out, like they're seeing a little bit what's on the other side. It's like you're trying to hold the door open and look through and like use your force to pull the doors apart so that you can actually move through. So there's a tension there, and there's like trying to get out, like to get to to get to the other side. Yeah, which I think is pairing really nicely with what we've talked about with this first reading, that you're doing your system update and you're not doing anything about it yet. You're allowing the downloads to happen. You're allowing the up level to happen so that you can start. And the energy for the second card is like wanting to get there. It's like I'm just seeing like the eyes, like, oh, like I'm starting to see the thing that's ahead, but you can't totally get through. It's the beginnings of that being previewed. Okay, so we're peering into the next chapter. We're looking ahead. We really want to get there, but there is a tension that is blocking us, so we can't actually get the door open ourselves. And it feels like this goes with a collective turn of the tides. And it's like, oh, well, then if there's a bunch of people there, then we can all actually pry the door open. So this feels like it starts out with you, but then it pulls in the rest of the collective community. Like, it feels like it's a little bit more community, neighbors, friends versus family in particular. So there's enough community members there that all have their hands on the door trying to pull it open so that we can move into the next chapter. We can actually forge ahead. It just doesn't feel like that process is completed this week. Like this week feels heavily like it is a transition. We're getting the information we need. We're starting to it's not process. Like we're not necessarily understanding it, but it is processing, it is buffering. And then we're seeing glimpses of what we think is to come, and we want to get there. And the way to get there is through your community, like your local community surrounding area, and people joining together. But in the next 6 to 7 days, I'm not seeing the people get to the other side of the opening. We're just working on opening it. And that's kind of where we land by the end of the week. Something about notes, like you're passing notes to people. It's like love notes, community notes. Like there's something about this. It's like a preliminary, but like really simple, basic exchange of short, succinct information. I don't know exactly how that folds in here, but there's something about maybe you're literally leaving a note for somebody, a neighbor, or they're leaving one for you, or it's about just kind of starting. We're at the precipice of beginning to communicate more with the people around us. And our card that we have, wow, so interesting. Okay. So the card that we have is hey, Sarah. And I mentioned this at the top. So even if you missed, I'm going to finish this card up and then I'm going to recap, but I'm also recording this. So anything that I have said in the last 30 minutes, you will be able to see on my YouTube channel, either later tonight or tomorrow. So the second card that we have here is the Meditate card, which I will point this out when we get there. But what we were talking about a lot with this card is it's like you in your neighborhood, like you connecting to your local community. So it's like your house, your apartment, like the space that you're living, what's your surrounding area, starting to tap in a little bit. And then coming together, it's like the collective energy to move towards that rebirth, that preview. And this card mentions home on it, which I think is so interesting. Meditate. I am at home in my body and at peace in my spirit. So also the fact that I was talking about a birth as well, like again, having a connection to the body and even really just the pairing of these two cards. So I'll recap them again in a second, but we have two cards that are very, very heavily focused on. The first one is your energy. And the second one, often meditation is used in energy work, So they're very complementary. But this one is talking about your body. It's about being centered. It's about being grounded. And what is more grounding than connecting to other people in a rebirth? So it's like you are being reborn, and part of this rebirth process is starting to foster new relationships in your home base. Misty, I picked number 2, and I'm sitting contemplating how to start my nomadic journey. I just got a chunk of money that can launch all this, but I'm wanting to be strategic and make the best choice. I'm also pushing towards your teacher profile. Yeah, waiting for that, excited. By reaching out because I've had trouble doing it all myself. I'm also wanting to launch a channel elsewhere to document my authentic journey for new career as a healer. Ooh, sounds fun. And that, yes, so what Misty is highlighting in this example is alignment with spirit. Like, what's my purpose, my calling, what's my rebirth, aka my next chapter, my new beginning, and getting there through connecting with other people in the Insight Timer community, in the healer community, to be able to actually get that door open to step forward into the next chapter. So super, super great illustration of that, Misty. All right. So, and also to the point about sitting there, what I highlighted for both of the cards is that there's no action. There's a waiting. The first card was heavily on like you're waiting, you're buffering. And the second card is like there's a slight exchange that's going on. There's like the beginning of some connections being developed. There is a call to open up that next chapter, to move into the next chapter, but we don't get through the threshold this week. We just start peering and looking ahead. All right, so to recap, reading number 1. This started with the outdated refrigeration system. So using those big salt blocks. That doesn't work anymore. There's a reason that we have refrigerators. It's the more advanced technology. What we are doing this week is we are receiving or reading through, listening to, processing new instructions, updated instructions. We are having our own system update like you would with a phone or computer. And while that progress bar is filling and getting closer and closer to 100%, we're just sitting in waiting. But we are setting our intention by wanting to understand this information, to map out the preparedness for the next chapter. And doing that, we are energetically signaling to the universe, this is what I want. This is what I want to call in. This is where I want to move to, move through. And that is manifestation energy. And card number 1 was the manifest card. With focus and intention, I can shape energy in any direction. So we are preparing to move into a brand new era. But we don't get there by the end of these 6 to 7 days. We're just in the preparation, information processing. We're getting instructions, whether through reading, going through information, or receiving psychic downloads. Simultaneously, you may also be experiencing the energy from reading number 2, and that is the rebirth. You are peering through the door. The doors are starting to separate. You can see the other side. You know that that new beginning is coming and you want to get there, but you can't open the door by yourself. So there's some connection with community members, specifically neighbors, friends, the towns or city people, the locals. beginning to have some budding connections. I was getting notes, so community notes, love notes. It's like you're starting to have some exchanges, whether literal or metaphorical, some encounters with people directly in your community. And as people come together, as people are getting on the same page, everyone is wanting to get into that new chapter as well. Everyone's putting their hands on the door and everyone is starting to pull it. And that way we can actually get the door open. But this, same as the first card, does not end the week with us passing through the threshold and getting to the other side. We just managed to get the door open enough that somebody could pass through. So this is a big transitional week. And with this card, it's the meditate card. I am at home in my body and at peace in my spirit. So we were talking about you relative to your home base, connecting to people within your area. So with meditation, you are connecting, you're going inward, but then you're also connecting to the senses, the physical world. You're moving towards the alignment, towards the rebirth that you want. So it's the renewal for your spirit, for your calling. Maybe it's the thing that you are trying to manifest. So if you happen to be doing both of these simultaneously, however that's presenting for you, processing some sort of information or receiving psychic insights, you're not even necessarily sure exactly how it works, what all the details are, but you're getting the info. At the same time, you're starting to establish some small connections or a draw to connect with those in your community. With both of these, you're having sacred pause, you're allowing that buffering to happen, you're not rushing into action, you're not even necessarily taking major action. You're allowing information to come to you and for you to signal to the universe the next chapter that you want for your rebirth. And you know that the way to get there is also through connecting to those around you. So then by the end of the week, we have the foundation, whether through information, through connection, through insight, to prepare for moving ahead into chapter 2. Let me know your thoughts on these collective readings. Very, very interesting stuff. And as always, I appreciate your support. So whether through a donation on Insight Timer or through the tip in the link in my bio, so that's Venmo or PayPal, or booking a reading with me or buying my different digital products. And thank you for joining on this Monday. Thank you, Tolkien, for the donation. And I'm so glad that you showed up to class today as your first time. I hope to see you at future classes. No class on Wednesday. Off on Wednesday, but I will be in Violet 108's Ask Your Guides panel on Thursday night, Eastern Time. So it's not in my feed, but if you follow Violet 108 or you don't, you can find me. If you search for my name, I should come up in the event because my name is listed in the event title. So you can find, you can RSVP, add it to your calendar. If you can't make it, Violet records those and puts them up on YouTube. So it won't be on my channel, but it will be available elsewhere. So it's a live, unscripted Q&A with a panel of a bunch of Insight Timer teachers. So it's my first one that I'm participating in. I've attended some as a student, but it should be a fun time. So I hope to see some of you there on Thursday. And if not, I will be back on Monday. Yeah, Monday for the next channeled reading for the week ahead.